Welcome! This is our first lesson and today we are going to learn how to install Magento. I'm using Windows and WAMP as a server. For those of you who are using different server software or maybe a different Windows version, there shouldn't be any problems to follow along, but non-Windows users may have permissions issues which will stop Magento installer. I'll mention that on time and give you the solution, so don't worry. You can find the system on magentocommerce.com. From there, go to Download, Community Edition, and simply choose the most up-to-date version. At the time of this recording, it's 1.7.0.2, and you'll be asked to log in or register. I think you cannot download the installation as a guest. At least I couldn't find a way to do that, but if you don't have an account, I really recommend registering so that you can access the various things that the community has to offer. I'm going to skip this step because I've already downloaded the code, and when your download is finished, there's one more file we'll take advantage of. Magento has sample data available that contains products, categories, CMS pages, and many other things to allow us to explore our new installation with no need to create everything from scratch, which will definitely make things faster, so make sure you've saved it. I have unzipped both files and moved them into my WAMP directory, and the first thing I'm gonna do is to import SQL dump via phpMyAdmin. Let's open that up in the browser and create a new database with the name of Magento. Next, I'll go to Import tab, and once there, I'll click on Browse to choose SQL file. And here is the first problem. The file size exceeded the maximum size permitted by our PHP configuration. This basically means that the SQL file we're trying to upload is larger than 2 MB, which is the default upload size limit set in php.ini. So I'll open that file using shortcut from the system tray. I'll search for upload max file size and increase the value to 3, which is just fine because our SQL file is a little bit more than 2, but still not 3. I need to restart the server for changes to take effect, and now the import should work without any problems, but it will take a couple of minutes because Magento is a giant application having more than 300 tables. Once this is done, before we start the install wizard in the browser, we need to copy the media folder that comes with sample data to the media folder in our plain Magento installation. This is a very important step because media folder contains images for the products and categories that we've just inserted into the database. Since we have everything in place now, I can open up the browser and simply start the install wizard by navigating to the installation directory, which is going to be localhost/Magento. You'll see a license agreement, and to continue the installation, check I agree to the above terms and conditions. This step will require you to configure the localization settings, like time zone or default currency, but that's not important for me now, so I'll leave as it is and click on Continue. And now, non-Windows users, pay a special attention on this step. A common problem for you guys we were talking about at the very beginning of this lesson is incorrect directory permissions preventing the wizard to continue. Chances are that you'll see an error message suggesting you to make etc folder under app, but also var and media folders writable, and you can see how to do that on the bottom of the screen. I got the message, PHP extension curl must be loaded, and that's because curl is disabled. Once again, we'll fix that by editing php.ini file. I'll search for curl and remove the leading semicolon to load it. Of course, make sure to restart the server and reload the page in the browser. Now I should be able to continue the installation process. And yeah, in the next window we'll need to set up database connection, and some of the fields here are populated, but you may change them. I'll type root under dbuser, and everything else seems to be fine because I didn't set password for the root user. But if that's not the case for you, simply put it here. Web access, I'll leave this whole section untouched, and the same for session storage options, so I'll click Continue. And finally, we need to complete the Create Admin Account step. I'll type my personal info because all of these fields are required, so you won't be able to complete installation without entering values. Login section is quite usual. Just pick a password longer than 6 charts, which contains the mix of letters and numbers. Continue. And it's finished! Great! You can visit your store by selecting Go to Frontend button, and I highly encourage you to set aside an hour and do that on your own. But I'm more interested in backend area and setting configuration, which will help us during development. Here we are in the dashboard, and the first thing we are going to do is to disable all Magento cache by going to System, Cache Management. This is a very important step, as Magento extensively uses cache in order to run more smoothly. If we leave cache on, we are basically telling Magento to load the whole system only once, then care the results again depending on what you have checked here, and the next time it won't load everything again, but return response from the cache, so we won't be able to see all our modifications. That's why I think it's a good idea to disable all caching during development, which will ensure that the whole system is loaded on every request. Of course, you'll enable caching again on production. Next, we can see the notification that database reindex is required. It's another speed improvement in the database, and we can reindex data in the dashboard too. Now we'll enable Magento logging. By default, logging is turned off in Magento, and it should be because the logs can rapidly increase. However, when developing, I recommend turning the logging on because that can be extremely helpful when debugging issues. If there's an error, you'll almost always find more info in the system or exception log, which are stored in logs folder under var in the root. Finally, I'm going to insert all Magento files and folders into Sublime Text Editor and open index.php file for a quick to make sure PHP will display errors. Once again, only while developing it's a good idea to remove comment on line 77, but be sure to set it back on production. Okay, that's gonna do it for this lesson. Next time we are going to explore the system directory structure. See you then!